my homie, my guy, man. NFL legend, one of the fastest 40s of all time, man. 8-year NFL vet, DB coach at Valpo, my hood. The one and only, man, Stanford Routt, man. What's going on, my guy?
Dude, what's going on, man?
Long time. What up, how you doing?
Pretty good. Coach, nice to meet you, man. Happy to be
brother,
on
you
with
too. You too. Yeah, man, I'm glad you came on, man. I appreciate it. Man, what's going on with Bill Belichick, man?
Man, your guess is as good as mine. I definitely been reading everything that's been coming out this week. And it like Colin Coward says, like it definitely seems like it's a obviously it's a mutually beneficial type of union between the both of them, to say the least.
Let me ask you something.
Union, I like that word.
Who the head coach at Valpo now? Who's your boss?
Oh, Andy Waddle.
Is there any way in the world he walks in there with a young girl and doesn't face backlash administratively? That's the point I'm making. Morale clause wise, like there's no way I could walk into my office with a young girl coaching these kids and not get called into the office by my president. That's the part that I don't think no one's talking about. Like, I get your Bill Belichick, and I don't care. Everyone's different for a reason. He walks in there with his handful of rings and all that stuff. I just don't see how this isn't being brought up. Listen, I don't care. Each his own, but I got a daughter and shit. It'd be weird to me. Bill Belichick walks in my house and courts my 22, 3, 4-year-old daughter. We got a problem. I don't care who you are. But I'm just trying to figure out, like, there's no way, right? No way.
I mean,
you don't got to
you already hit it right on the head. Like, it's Bill Belichick. So, you got to remember at the same time how he caught UNC kind of in a position where they were desperate. Obviously, Mac Brown got let go. So they're looking for the next person that, okay, who can go ahead and bring this organization some stability, who can also go ahead and give us some name appeal, things like that. And I mean, who's got a bigger name or a bigger resume than Bill Belichick, actually being one of the guys who coached the GOAT within Tom Brady, all of the Super Bowls. So just off of that alone, when you look at everything from the contract where he's getting $10 million a year, Bill Belichick has always been an NFL guy. He's never been a college guy. So just off of that alone, and then he can easily go ahead and leave. And I think his buyout is, I forget how much, but he's able to leave fairly quickly. And you got to also remember the D coordinator, his son, is now the head coach in waiting. To be able to go ahead and have all of that stipulated within the contract, it just goes to show exactly who had the leverage in that situation. And as far as everything with him going with Jordan Hudson and all of that, I think that probably, the brass at UNC, the Board of Regents and the president and all of them, they probably don't exactly applaud it, but he's not doing anything illegal. He's not doing anything wrong from that perspective. So it's one of those things that they probably just look at and go, okay, I'm going to go ahead and grit my teeth, just go ahead and kind of, turn the other cheek, look the other way. But I don't think it's something that they're exactly applauding behind closed doors. But it just goes to show that's how desperate that they were to get Bill Belichick. So he's been with Jordan for last couple of years or something like that. So they knew all this going in when they signed him. They knew that he had a significant other that was vastly younger than him. They just wanted to go ahead and accept it because of what the upside can be if this Bill Belichick comes in fully motivated based off everything he did with the New England Patriots.
Yeah, that was my whole point. I know it's not illegal, and I was telling Smitty that earlier. I was like, but morale-wise and like,
morale-wise, you're spot on. You're spot on.
Contractually at a university, like there used to be things in there that were like, hey, even though it's not illegal, you do something like this that gives us, the college, a bad look or a black eye, you could be fired for cause. And that's just what it is. It's not illegal, or it doesn't have the shit to do with legal. You're not going to jail. I'm just saying, bottom line is, though, it's a bad look. But anyway, it is what it is. Appreciate you popping in on us, man.
No problem.
Give me your take real quick on the Raiders, man. Pete Carroll going there, your former team. He's got one of my former players is there, Lonnie Johnson, big 6'4" corner safety.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Jack, another former player, was there. He let him go. I think he just got scooped up by the Chiefs. Where you at with the Raiders, the offseason, what they did in the draft, etc.? What's your outlook on what they're going to be?
Yeah, I like a lot of what they this past offseason. Obviously trading for Geno, then drafting Ashton Genty, sixth pick overall just a week ago. Yeah. I definitely think they need to add more onto the edges as far as like the receivers go, probably even in the back end. I think they're still depleted when it comes to playmakers back there, but definitely like the direction that they're going. We all know Pete Carroll, he likes to build through the trenches. He likes to have that good O-line, D-line, the run game, all of that. But they're not there yet. You could still make the argument that they're the fourth best team in the AFC West, but I like the trajectory. I like the direction that it looks like everything is going.
No, for sure, man. And JB always makes a point that, Pete Carroll, he's older, right, at this point in his career. School. So, like, he has to be thinking from a mindset of, like, I'm trying to win, like, now. And, again, maybe this next season isn't the season, but it feels like he's trying to bring this thing together as quick as possible, though. Just, and I do feel like, to your point, right now we could probably make the argument that they are last place, but I mean, we'll see, man. We know Pete Carroll's a bad boy. We know his history. We know what Geno has done. We know how talented Ashton Genty is, man. I can see a world where the next 2 years, though, things could shake in that division potentially.
Yeah, they definitely could. It's just going to matter of like coming down to simple plays as far as in the late parts of the game, obviously coaching, play calling, things like that. And it's so crazy because when you look at the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Chargers, and the Raiders, you could easily be second place in the division, but like be one game away from being fourth place in the division. I think that as far as the Chiefs go, everybody knows that they got blasted by the Eagles in the Super Bowl, but until another team from the AFC represents the AFC in the Super Bowl, I would still go ahead and call them the top team to beat within the AFC and especially within the AFC West. The Broncos, they got Bo Nix, got a Sean Payton, they're coming. You got now Jim Harbaugh out there in LA with the Justin Herbert. Hopefully he'll get over his playoff woes that he seemed to had over the last couple of years. So it's definitely going to be a tough hill to climb for the Raiders. I think it's possible, but when you think about it, Pete Carroll, you can make the argument that he's the fourth best coach in that division. Ooh. And Pete Carroll is a national champion. He's a Super Bowl champion. So it's definitely a lot of star power on the quarterback side and the head coaching side within that division.
Let me ask you this real quick, JB. So obviously, you play DB, you understand the position, all the ins and outs. We got a guy that the Jaguars, traded up for, and Travis Hunter, who really wants the opportunity to go out here and play both sides, DB and wide out. Can you explain at the NFL level how difficult that could potentially be? I don't know if they're going to give him a chance to do it or not, or if it's going to be like a majority at wide out, a few reps at DB, or vice versa. But like, you played it at that level. Yeah. Is it impossible for him to really do this?
I think the better question would be, to what degree are you asking, can he do this? Now, if you're asking, can he go out there and play mainly offense and about 10 to 15 snaps on defense or something like that, or vice versa, then yeah, I think that he could possibly do that, because it's been guys. I mean, we see Deion, you did that back in the 90s. Obviously, he played primarily DB, but he played a little offense here and there. Charles Woodson the same way. I believe Champ Bailey to a certain degree back when he was with the Washington then Redskins and a few other guys. But if you're asking as far as him playing 120 snaps a game, offense and defense, literally out there every play. So you're out there running routes, boom, 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 boom. All of a sudden it's fourth down. Punt team comes on. They punt the ball. And instead of the offense leaving the field, going to the sideline to go talk about what's going to happen in the next series, he stays out there because now he's ready to get all those reps at DB. That, to me, I think from a physical standpoint, that's going to be a lot of wear and tear on your body. He's going to look up and he's going to be in year 3, and his body's going to feel like it's in year 10. That's number one. Number two, to ask somebody to go out there literally and now try to run routes against Sauce Gardner and then turn right around and now have to go and cover a Garrett Wilson and things like that. From a mental standpoint, man, that's like some kamikaze Navy SEAL type of stuff out there, just because the level of preparation that it takes to get prepared for your opponent just on one side of the ball from that Monday through that Saturday, obviously game being on Sunday or what have you, that level of preparation is unmatched. That's why it's the NFL. It's not the best of the good. It's the best of the best. And then to ask a guy to now have to do that times 2 every week for a different opponent for on both sides of the ball, I think that's asking a lot. So when you say to the degree, I think that right there is probably the linchpin, or should I say the sticking point. If it's primarily one side of the ball and then sparingly on the other side of the ball, I think it can be done. But if you're asking primarily to do both at a high level, high clip, 120, 130 snaps a game, I just don't see that happening.
That's like verbatim what someone else says on this show. Like actually, literally word for word, somebody else on this show said the same thing, but I'm a hater.
He said it way better than you, though. He said it more professional, it was cleaner, it was more specific.
Hey, Stanford, you know what the crazy part is? Like, I got all these NFL guys and I coach and play, and they come on the show and say exactly what you just said, and then I'm still the hater and I'm wrong.
Because Stanford, hey, listen, no, you ain't getting away with that. Stanford, I know you're new to the show. JB will say what you said, but then he'll add some stuff in like, oh, this guy is shitty.
I know what you're saying.
He adds all the other nuances that like completely waters down the whole purpose. Like, I get JB. So a lot of times when he says like crazy stuff, I can break through all the crazy stuff and understand what the foundation is. But sometimes
you still get the message.
Yeah, exactly. But it's hard sometimes.
The packaging just kind of comes in and let it get a little bit, little dented, got a little wrinkle on the side of it. So no, I trust me, I get it. And that's the thing where, especially in this generation, and you really got to be careful with your words in this generation, because if you say anything about anybody that's not glowingly positive, then all of a sudden you're just deemed a hater, or, oh man, why you hating on him, or why you tripping on the young generation and you the old head and all of that. So trust me, I definitely get it, Coach.
Let me ask you, Stanford, you're one of the fastest men in the NFL. And in the history of the NFL, fast guys usually don't translate, especially when people say, track star to football.
Yep.
You play 8 years in the league. You're one of the guys that lasted and actually translated. Why don't guys that run track that are great and who end up doing both and get drafted and play in the league, why don't they last? The John Rosses, who I actually coached and ran a 4.291 or whatever, one of the fastest, that didn't pan out. We've had great Ron Brown, who I grew up watching in the LA Ram, one of the fastest men ever. A lot of these all these guys, they don't pan out in being a great football player. We always talk about, they were the fastest guy, but then they weren't really a football player. You were a football player that was really fast.
I love the way you put that.
How'd that translate?
Exactly what you just said. I was a football player that was really fast, not some track runner that could play football, and I think that's very intricate as far as exactly how you differentiate the two. For me, I always loved football. That's what I've been playing since I was 9 years old. So I started running track just to get faster for football. And then that's how everything just kind of came about. A lot of guys simply are good at track. And then all of a sudden somebody says, hey, you ever thought about playing football? So you just go and throw them out there, and football doesn't come natural to them. Now, I will say this, and this is something that I learned from a few of my track coaches back at my days at the University of Houston, is this part right here. In football, it's not about who can run an uncontrolled 4-1 or 4-2 or whatever. It's about who can run a controlled 4-4. So when you look at the guys like Antonio Brown, or you look at another guy like a Devontae Adams, or even a Justin Jefferson, who they're not burners. They're not out there running 4-2 or whatever. But the thing is, they can run 4-4 in their routes. They can run 4-4 like in actual game like speed. Exactly. Yeah. So the one thing that I had to learn probably early on is there would be times on the football field where I had to basically learn to control my speed, so to speak. So if I'm guarding a receiver at the line of scrimmage and he takes off on a go ball, he takes off on a vertical stem, I can't go and just like this the first 10, 15 yards, because I won't be able to stop. So if he runs a comeback, or he gives me a hitch or a curl or something like that, I got to be able to stop on a dime and match his plant steps. So it's being able to understand and control your speed and being able to have different pitches, so to speak. That's what a lot of guys probably don't understand or don't realize. But every man individually has to understand his skill set, understand where you're strong, understand where you're weak. And I think that some guys probably understand that better than others.
Yeah, I don't think people realize, like, Jamal Lewis, when he was with the Ravens, was like a legit 4.45.
Yep.
At 230, and people don't realize he never got caught. And he wasn't a 4.1 guy, but he was 230 running 4.45. And good friend of mine, Art Perkins, was Ozzie Newsome's right-hand man, player personnel for that Ravens team, and was like, dude, this dude's a freak. He's unbelievable. People don't really realize, like, in the history of the game. And then you talk about, like, Herschel Walker, who was unbelievable.
Oh, man.
Oh, Jack.
That's before D's time.
Yeah. The running back, though. The running back moving that fast, Stanford. And then get the wide out to move that fast, in control, like Jerry Rice, Steve Largent. They were 4.6, 4.7 guys, but they ran full speed. Like, full speed running a dig route is hard to stop when you don't know where you're going as a DB, right? Like, I don't know. People don't understand that. That's a great point. Let me dive into some college stuff. You're coaching right now. Not to get into too much, but let me ask you the current status and the landscape of college football.
Man,
what's your biggest takeaway? I know without saying stuff you can't say. What's the hardest thing? What's the hardest part of this game right now, from when we played and coached to now coaching these young cats? What's the biggest obstacle, I guess?
Oh, man, the mental, keeping the main thing. And the NIL is what really translates, or should I say transforms a lot, because it really illuminates the haves and the have-nots. And you'll see this kid go out and he doesn't get a huge NIL deal, or he doesn't get offered money, or whatever you want to call it. And his buddy does. So now he starts to feel inferior. He wants to go out there and simply match what his homeboy got, or he wants to match what he heard so-and-so in another state that came out of high school the same year as him, but had less stars than him and things like that. He wants to get what he got. And now he feels that he's inferior. He feels that he's not doing enough because he didn't get X amount of dollars within the NIL. So now guess what? He wants to hit the transfer portal. Also, he can go ahead and match that number that he's been hearing. And the thing is, with a lot of the NIL, so many of these kids, they're not actually getting that money in cold, hard cash. That's just what the valuation of their deal. So I'll give you an example. So you can have a school, let's say in a P4 conference, and they could have a guy who is been given an exotic car. Let's say Lambo, Ferrari, Maserati. I don't know. I don't care. But the thing is, he's being able to drive that car on campus for the entirety of his time being at that university. But his NIL valuation will be considered as far as however much that car is. So it'll be he's got a $300,000 NIL deal. Yeah, he does, because that car is $300,000, but he's not exactly walking around with $300,000 cash in his pocket. And so a lot of these kids, they're hearing this. Oh my God, I want to go to that school because, so-and-so got a $300,000 NIL deal and this, that, and the other. And what it does is it just takes away from the purity of, in my opinion, college football and college basketball. As you saw, you didn't really see any Cinderella teams at all this past NCAA tournament. It takes away from the purity, and you don't have that same grit. You don't have that same desperation. Like I remember back in my days, I remember how I had a best friend back in college, and I used to use her meal plan just to go ahead and get some dinner at nighttime. And I remember when I'm at the combine, I'm out there going against guys from Michigan or UT or USC. And the thing is that I knew, man, listen, like I got a certain life that I'm living right now. I want to get as far away from that as humanly possible. So now I'm here at this combine. I got to make this shit happen, because if I don't want to go back to the life that I've been living for the past 21 years, because I don't have no other option. I don't have some NIL deal that I can go ahead and kind of, have a soft landing on. Like I got to go ahead and basically get it out the mud, is like what the young generation will call it now. And you get so much of this money being thrown around within the NIL, within this generation. There isn't that same desperation. There isn't that same grit, that same hopelessness that I got to make this happen because I don't got no other options. You don't have as much of that as you used to, because the NIL makes a lot of these kids feel comfortable. And Coach, you are at your best when you're uncomfortable, because now you got to really go and push it. But it breeds a lot of comfort level within this younger generation, and I really think that affects him going forward.
That's why I'm like, that's why I've been hard on Shedeur Sanders. He don't have nothing. His fallback is $1 million still. He's got millions of dollars. He's got $1 million daddy. He's got a fine life. He don't need to make it in the NFL. That's why he didn't go to the combine. That's why I called it out. And I'm the hater, though. But at the end of the day, that's the hunger part. The hunger part you just talked about. The hunger part, Stanford, is what these cats now lack. Not just Shedeur, but everybody in this generation that's getting paid in this NIL thing. You don't have the same investment or hunger in your body, in your longevity, in the actual game that we grew up wanting to aspire to be like an NFL legend. They don't have that no more. Now it's about, NIL college. They play 7-8 years. Look how old these cats are now. 25, 26 getting drafted compared to 21, 22 when we came out. So I don't know.
I feel everything y'all saying. I agree with a lot. I guess my only pushback is that, to me, what we're saying though is if you come from a family that has decent money, decent whatever, that you can't be great. And I disagree with that. I think you got to find another why. You got to find another motivation. I grew up food stamps.
That part.
I'm with you, but there's guys who teammates I had who had a 2-parent household, grew up good, daddy good, and they loved the game. They wanted to be great, and that's what drove them. So you like the Shedeur example. I don't think just because his daddy's Dion, that automatically means that he's not motivated to go out there and be great. To me, some of those kids who have prominent parents or some of the hardest workers, because it's opposite. It's I want to prove myself and show you who I am separately from my pops, separately from my mother. It just depends on what that individual kid's mindset is, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're not wrong on that, because trust me, there's plenty of guys that come from affluent backgrounds to wind up being good players. Right. I think what Coach is saying, just like me, is that more often than not, you tend to see the guys that come from the well-to-do, comfortable background. They wind up not having as much hunger. They wind up not having as much grit, because you got to think about it like this, my man. Look at Cam Ward. Cam Ward from Texas, West Columbia High School, if memory serves. And take a look at his draft day outfit versus what you saw a lot of the other green room guys versus their draft day outfits. And even just the way Cam Ward talks, he keeps it short and sweet. He doesn't really want to do a lot of interviews, doesn't really want to be in social media a whole lot, obviously, because he was a Heisman Trophy runner-up and played at U of M and all of that. Obviously, he's got some notoriety. There's no doubt about that. But he doesn't seem like he's somebody that's really, really trying to lean into it. All he wants to do is just simply be a great football player, great quarterback for now the Tennessee Titans. And even, I can tell you this. Before I started coaching college ball, I was coaching high school ball, St. Thomas High School in Houston, Texas. And it's a high school, obviously Catholic private school, where it probably costs maybe somewhere around 15 to 20 grand a year just to go there for tuition. And that was definitely an eye-opener for me, because me, obviously, like I said, I got that grit, that hunger, that toughness, all of that. So I want it. I want to win the state championship. And there were times where I remember some of the coaches be, hey, Stan, you got to temper your expectations, because these kids, their parents pay for them to go to school here. So they don't have that need. They don't have that desperation, that hunger, things like that, because their parents are already well off. So all they got to do is just simply graduate high school, go to the college that their parents are going to pay for, and then they'll simply just fall right into, being the manager at one of their parents' businesses or something like that. So when you know that you don't have a second option,
ain't no plan B.
There's a different level of desperation that you're going to have when you're out there on the basketball court or the track, the baseball field, the football field. It don't matter. Just like you see certain kids that may have a 4.0 GPA and their parents really don't come from nothing. But somehow, some way, they wind up getting that scholarship or that grant to go to Princeton or Yale or something like that, versus the kid who, his dad is like a .com billionaire, and all of a sudden he's at Princeton or Yale because they're paying for his tuition, and he might want to go ahead and do a line. on a Friday night just because he wants to go ahead and kind of, wig out a little bit. He may not feel like going to class on Monday because he's tired from the past weekend. So when you don't have a plan B, I think it does raise that level of desperation, and all in all, it's gonna you're gonna be more focused because, like I said, you're gonna fall back.
And I think the chat's missing my point. They're comparing Eli and Peyton and all these guys that their parents had money. I heard Howie Long and shit.
Yeah,
there's a huge difference in that and what's we're watching right now with these kids. These kids now have money, homies.
Right. Yeah. Not
like, why are you guys not understanding? Peyton and Eli wasn't walking around with millions of dollars in their pocket. Their daddy may have had some money. Howie Long may have had some money, and he didn't have the money that they have now, by the way. When he played in the NFL, they played for what a Walmart manager makes now. I want to be clear.
Eric Dixon had a little change.
The kids now, though, are coming in under the table. The kids now, though, have the keys. Yeah, these kids now have Black American Express cards and fucking Bentleys and Lambos. It's totally different, dog. It ain't about my parents. We all play with kids that had parents that had money. That wasn't. They still was hungry. The kids was hungry because they wanted the money. Because you know what our parents used to do? Our parents used to be like, "Hey, dog, when you're 18, you're going to do something. Go to college or go get a job."
That's what my old man told me.
It wasn't. You're getting my money.
Go to the army.
Yeah, it wasn't. You're getting my money. Right. I never heard that from no rich parents, homie. Now these kids already got the money. Like, what's their incentive now? Like, that's the difference. I don't think these micros in the chat understand. But anyway,
real quick though, because I'm sorry, JB. Would you talk? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Real quick, because you mentioned that before you were coaching here at Valpo, you were coaching high school ball in Texas. Obviously, you are a Texas boy. So I gotta ask you this, man. When we talk about high school ball.
Oh, I think I know where this is going.
Texas, Florida, or Cali. I'm going to put them three. JB from Cali. So he's big on California. He said California puts out the best talent. That we see a lot of the top QBs as lately come from Cali. But we know how Texas gets down, and we know how Florida gets down. From your perspective, unbiased, non-biased opinion, which of those areas put out the best high school football?
It's tough to answer that question. I probably would take it a step further and be a little bit more fixated on, I think it's by position, or I think it's by like a certain side of the ball. Like I think when it comes to quarterbacks, I think that California has a slight edge over Texas when it comes to producing quarterbacks as far as the ones you see make it to the NFL and all of that. I think California definitely has for quarterbacks. I think for other positions, I could give Texas a strong argument. And Florida, they're right up there too, because Florida, I think, has more Hall of Famers than Texas and California as far as like NFL all-time greats. You look at Emmitt Smith, Deion Sanders, the Michael Irvins of the world, the Chris Carters of the world, people like that. It really just kind of comes down year to year. I'm from Texas, obviously, so I'm always going to ride with my state, but I'd be very foolish to act like I don't see the talent that comes out of Florida or comes out of California. But I think that when it comes to quarterbacks, I think that California has that hands down in my opinion.
I respect that. JV, go ahead.
We also have the most Hall of Famers.
Really?
Fucking right, we do. What do you mean?
Well, Stanford's kind of he's making a little side eye.
We have 41 Hall of Famers. The closest state to us is Pennsylvania, and then Texas, and then Florida.
I was just about to say that. Listen, Pennsylvania and Georgia, very, very underrated as far as like the amount of talent that comes out of those states. Obviously, they're smaller than Texas and South Carolina too. I got several homeboys that I played with. Richard Seymour's from South Carolina. Jonathan Joseph, obviously. AJ Green, Roddy White from South Carolina. So there's several other states that are very underrated for the amount of talent, obviously per capita, that they put out into the NFL. But
and there's always like an outlier. To me, South Carolina is my favorite state to recruit per capita. In my opinion, I'm a California guy, is the most talented, rich per capita state in the union. South Carolina, you can go to Silver Bluff, South Carolina, to Columbia, to Rock Hill. I've had a ton of guys, Burns. I've had all these guys that you could go and grab. And then Pennsylvania is a quarterback state. To be honest, and a linebacker state, and then you got And then California. Here's the issue. California has the best education in America. And so what happens is when you recruiter like I was forever, what happens is, well, it is a fact. I'm saying I'm just going by qualifiers that get scholarships. That's what we're talking about right now. Just educate. I'm just saying education.
Okay.
On an education plane, we have the most qualifying scholarship kids coming out of the biggest state with the biggest population. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
So what happens is that gets watered down though, because what happens is the kids in Florida who don't qualify or the kids in Texas who don't qualify, what happens is those players will go to, let's say, a JUCO in Kansas or Texas or Mississippi. Or, of course, here we have 72 JUCOs, more than the rest of the country combined. What happens is a lot of those kids that don't qualify out of high school end up going and getting jobs or what have you instead of going JUCO and making it. A lot of the Florida, lower class Florida, bad education states like Mississippi, Washington, D.C., Alabama, one of the worst in the country. They go JUCO because of the hunger of not having what California has.
Exactly, yeah.
Ocean, weather, bitches, food, all this shit that people don't really get macro with it when it comes to the recruiting part. California loses thousands of kids every year that could be Division I players or NFL players that'll never play again, versus the other states that aren't as populated that'll go play JUCO, that'll make it. Actually, California said, man, fuck this. I got other things to do. That's why California don't invest in football here like the
that
Midwest,
part. You know that part. And that would probably be my next rebuttal is just that, where on the West Coast there's so much diversity as far as how you want to live your life, what direction you want to go, whether it's tech, whether it's being an actor or an influencer and things like that. So like in the South, you only got one way out, that's football, because football is king. But on the West Coast, California, obviously Arizona, it doesn't seem like even if the former Pac-12 schools out there on the West Coast, it just doesn't seem like football is at the forefront of what we're trying to do. Like we're not trying to win a national championship versus the actual blue blood Big Ten schools, the SEC schools in Texas. Like they're trying to win at all costs. And on the West Coast, and even UT started kind of getting like this to a certain degree, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, where you could bump into a player and he would simply say something to you. I'm not a player, I'm a brand. And
exactly. That's why they recruit California kids. Kansas. I told Smitty, hey, that's why I didn't recruit California or Florida kids after a while to a place like Kansas, because I'm just telling you, I went Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, North Carolina,
gritty.
Because they understand the snow, the climate, the weather. It ain't nothing in Kansas. There's nothing to do. Similar to like Naptown, like nothing to do there. So it's similar. Similar. So it's very similar, like, it's landscape. So that's why California kids, man, shit. There's so many kids that I know that could have been NFL players that just didn't make it.
Yeah, Cali.
Yeah, I'm just saying it is what it is. But I'm just saying the fact of the matter is, though, we have the most Hall of Famers.
But anyway, there, JB. You from there? Real quick though, because again, I'm sorry, I want to stay on this Texas little train a little longer. You have a lot of friends who obviously played at UT. Yeah. And if I'm not, and correct if I'm wrong, you were cool with some guys who was on that team that upset USC, right? Back in
I know several guys from that team.
Yeah, so we were having a little, I guess, debate the other day about some like the all-time like college football team. Obviously, the U got brought up, you know, in 2001. Yep. But that SC like was like 05 or whatever year
Reggie
team
Bush,
got brought
Matt
up.
Leinart, Wendell White.
What's your take on this? Like the all-time, I guess, college football team. Like, should that Texas team be in a conversation with Vince Young and those cats, or what's your take?
Yeah, they definitely should be in the conversation for one of the best college football teams ever, just because they beat the
two-time champ.
Yeah, exactly. The USC Trojans and all that. But from what I can tell, don't nobody hold a candle to them goddamn 2019 LSU Tigers.
Woo! Oh man,
Like,
I wasn't expecting that. I was not expecting that.
Just because, I mean, obviously VY, that's my boy. Like, that's my dog right there. I remember he goes the big game. I think it may have been 4th down or 3rd down, gets the touchdown to seal the victory against USC. Matt Leinart over there upset after the game, talking about we're still the better team and like, whatever, bro. So like
Reggie Bush in there.
Yes. So you got the U back in 01, 02. Oh my God, they were unbelievably stacked. Crazy. And the only reason why I would simply not put UT like in that top 2, top 3 is just because when you look at LSU, they had a complete roster. You look at Joe Burrow, quarterback. I mean, like your number 2 receiver was Justin Jefferson. The number 2 receiver was. Like, for crying out loud, you got Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the backfield, and then over there on the defense side of the ball, you got Derek Stingley as a freshman. 6 picks, made All-American that year. Christian Fulton, who's going to be eventual 2nd-round pick, was the other corner. And then I think you had Kayvon Chasen, you had Patrick Queen, and just so many guys on that team. So that, to me, 2019 LSU Tigers, they would be the best team in college football history. I think they broke the record for most points scored, Joe Burrow, most touchdowns, or something like that. And it would be a
my boy Pat Queen
battle between them and the early 2000 Miami.
White, I think on that team.
I liked them in this era. I don't know if I could put them in that other era though. I think that played into a team like the 08 Florida, the 01 Miami, the 05, 04, 03, 02 USC team that had nothing but NFL secondary guys with ridiculous linebackers who played more physical. I think you passed the ball like LSU did. I think it played into the hands of those other teams.
And I'll ask you this: what secondary outside of the Miami Hurricanes in 2001, my rookie year in college, when they beat, I think it was Nebraska in the national championship game, when you had Mike Rump, you had Philip Buchanan, you had Ed Reed, you had Sean Taylor was a pup back then, God rest his soul, and Antero Roll, I think, was the nickel. Antero Roll came out in my draft class, number 8 overall. Outside of that secondary, and then I remember the Florida 07, 08, Reggie Nelson. I remember all that. What secondary outside of the Miami Hurricanes one you think is stopping that LSU passing attack in 2019?
Justin Jefferson.
Because think about it. Think about it. The 2 highest paid receivers right now in NFL history, both were on the same freaking team 6 years ago.
With one of the highest paid quarterbacks on that.
Exactly. So, like, I don't know who's stopping that passing attack, because who's going to have 2 top-notch dog corners to be able to cover both of them?
The team that had Cedric Ellis and all that pass rush that would have killed Joe Burrow and never would allow him to get a pass off against a guy like Troy Polamalu, who would have knocked everyone's dick in the dirt. Come on now.
No, but we know Joe get that ball out though.
Go ahead. You like Pete Carroll was playing. What? You like Pete Carroll was playing fucking quarters off, homie. Stop. They're pressing your ass in with 6'4" corners across the board.
What's 6'4" corners at USC?
What do you mean?
You talking about I'm trying to think back to that time when Troy Polamalu came out, and what corners, what DBs were coming out of USC at the time, not named Troy Polamalu, obviously, not name him, that were some actual dogs at USC at that time?
What's my man name? The long corner, Sharice Wright, 6'4", all day long. Unbelievable.
You think he was going to cover Jamar Chase?
He was but I'm saying, this is my point. We're talking about pressing you, though, why that D-line gets to you. You guys know how football works.
Yes, I trust me, I get it.
Darnell Bing was 6'5". Taylor Mays was 6'5".
I play with Darnell Bing. Darnell Bing.
And Taylor Mays, even though NFL-wise he was just ended up being whatever.
Which one of those guys do you think had the hips to cover Justin?
Nah, they didn't have the hips. They didn't have the hips, but we would have put press on them why that D-line got to you is my point. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying they're going to cover you in 7-on-7. I'm just saying in a football game in pads. But that game, that's
so you're saying it would have looked like the Eagles versus the Chiefs.
Yeah, because in the pads and shit matter. Everything else matters up front. Who was blocking Cedric Ellis?
It does.
Who was
I
blocking?
know Stanford.
Who was Brian
used to have no wideouts. Mahomes ain't had Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase to throw.
No, he did.
That would have changed things.
I don't agree with it, but I do understand where he's going with this sentiment. I don't agree with it, but I do understand. Yes, and if you got a good pass rush, it doesn't really matter who the corners are.
Right. I'm gonna be honest too, and like I tell Smitty all the time, I build my teams off lockdown corners and D line because at the end of the day, if I can get to your QB, I can get to your quarterback and cover. I can be average at linebacker. I can be average at a lot of other places. DB and D-line is where you build your team from, and SC had that beyond belief. Let me ask you this, though. The Clemson 16 team and the 18 team need to be in a conversation, too. Those two teams,
Deshaun Watson and Taj Ward?
Taj Ward. The team that blew out Alabama, who I predicted that game. I won a lot of money that day. That team was loaded.
Justin Watson was and Hunter Renfrow.
How good that Clemson team was. That Clemson team was fucking loaded.
It was
everywhere.
It was, no doubt about it. Yeah, you could definitely go ahead and throw them in there. But I think what was on the defensive side though? As far as stars.
Yeah, I don't. On the defense side, I don't know. They had the pass rusher. What's his name? That Beasley, and then who was the other cat?
And then Cleveland Farrell.
Yeah,
he was another one.
Farrell, yeah. I'm trying to think of some of the other.
Somebody in the chat said Grady Jarrett was on that team.
Who?
I think
somebody in the chat. Grady said Grady Jarrett was on that team.
Yeah. What was the Beasley kid? Vic Beasley, right?
You guys said Beasley, Grady Jarrett,
Vic Beasley.
Farrell, Gaines Adams, the DN that came off the bench, who was a freak. Daquan Bowers. Let me ask you something real quick. Where college football is Valpo and the mid majors, and we spoke about basketball. Is there something that's going to happen? You're worried about for the mid majors and the little folks in this thing when we talk about resources and not being able to match the dollars and all this stuff?
You talking about basketball or football? Or
football,
both?
But I'm just saying mid majors in general, like group of 4 or 5 now, whatever that changed.
It's always going to be that just because it's now the haves and the have-nots. So I mean, we just saw some report came out just the other day that UT is what they're anticipating spending 35 to 40 million as far as NIL this year, and it just goes to show like now it's all legal. That's the only difference now. So they can just simply outbid you. The Ohio States, the USCs, the UTs, or what have you. They can just simply outbid you. And I remember, like I said, I'm from Austin, guys, and I remember years ago. This is something that I learned years ago. The money that UT generates from one home game can fund the athletic department. And they got like 30 different sports in the athletic department. The money that they generate from one home game can fund the entire athletic department for a decade.
Well, they also can fund the computer lab and the math lab and all the other buildings being built on campus is from football, which a lot of people don't want to talk about.
Hold on. Just for clarity, you said a decade, correct?
For a decade.
10 years.
Because think about it. They got $100,000. Like their seating is I think 100,000. So however much the ticket prices are, you go there, you're gonna buy a hot dog, you're gonna get a beer, or you're gonna get a Coca-Cola or something like that. You're gonna go and buy a UT shirt. And then let's go ahead and not forget about the parking. So and then we got the people that are in the suites, the season ticket holders, all of that. But yeah, the money that they generate from one home game can fund the entire athletic department for a decade. And they get like 6 or 7 home games a year.
And especially with Title IX and the elimination of certain sports that are trying, because football is king. That's just what it is. So,
it is. And then you also got to remember, man, like A&M pound for pound probably has a higher endowment than UT. To be honest with you,
more money too. They got oil money.
Exactly. A&M is exactly what it is. Agriculture and mechanics. So you got the oil and gas money, you got the farming, agriculture. So it's more of kind of like the quiet, not really outspoken, a little bit understated type of endowment. UT's got the Matthew McConaughey's, they got the famous people. But the thing is like, I remember, God rest his soul, I remember Red McCombs. Red McCombs had a lot of dealerships all throughout Central Texas. At one point in time, he owned the Minnesota Vikings and he owned the San Antonio Spurs. And I remember how he would donate $10 million a year to UT. And like, not for any specific reason. Like every year he had already had that. He had that allotted in his expenses, his finances, donating $10 million to University of Texas every year. And he's just one of the people that they have as far as donors, boosters, all of that. So when you think about it from that perspective, yeah, that's why UT is able to have the $35 to $40 million expectations as far as NIL goes, just because they'll outbid you.
My boy Kevin Sumlin was a coach there for a while, and he told me stories, man. That's just you couldn't even fathom. Like the money they have is unbelievable. Like that's why that money that they paid Jimbo off with was.
I was just about to say that. I was like, Jimbo Fisher obviously was underperforming at Texas A&M. We all know that. And the AD was worried about, oh my God, this guy has like a $70 million buyout. We need to make a change, but can I really go ahead and justify paying this guy $70 million to not work anymore? And it was a game, I forget who they were playing against. It was a game that they actually won. They actually won this game. And there's a foundation at Texas A&M. I think it's called the Texas A&M X's or something like that. I forget what it's called. But the head of that booster, donor, whatever organization, literally at halftime, they walked up to the AD with a check of like $160 million and basically said, hey, if you want him out of here, here you go.
Crazy.
Yeah. And sure enough, he was fired 2 days later.
Man,
money talks, man. Money talks. You don't win. You don't win. It is what it is, man.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Man, Stanford, great stuff, man. I can't thank you enough. We got to have you on more, man. We got to have you on more.
Definitely.
What are you doing now? You just coaching at Valpo and trying to move up the ranks here and trying
Absolutely.
to. This is your new thing. This is what you want to do.
Yeah, man. I love coaching. It's something I've been doing for going on 9 years now since 2017. Love it, and definitely always looking to move up the ranks, man.
Hell yeah, no doubt. Good luck to you, man. Anything I could do, let me know, brother. I would do it in a heartbeat. Appreciate you jumping on, man. We'll have to have
you guys. Coach, nice meeting you. D, man, good seeing you, bro.
Yes, sir. I'll talk to you, my guy.
All right, brother.